If you, how many people don't have a piece of paper and need one? We'll be happily, somebody will happily give you some. The way it works is you write this letter, you put it in the envelope, you put your name and address on there where you want us to send it to you in October or thereabouts, and we'll put a stamp on it and we'll put a return address. If it comes back to us, we'll wait for you to come back to us as well, and we'll give it to you then. So I'm going to talk a little bit about intention, the way of doing this today, and then you'll have a chance to write. But you may write anytime during this whole time period. I will not think it rude if you're not looking at me and you're scribbling away. You know, I'll use my big boy pants and just. All right, so here we go. This intent, the way I think I'm going to make a suggestion on how you should do this. Of course, you can do it any way you want to, but this is my suggestion. This practice here is not just to write from the surface level of your mind and all the thoughts that you have that pop into the surface mind about what you might want in your life. Now, most of us are exposed to some 100 forms of advertising every day, and we have been bombarded with ideas of what we might need. And many of you know that advertising's job is to make you want something. And if you find that your mind's firing off a lot of desires, some of which really may or may not matter to you, then we're not trying to work at that level. And I think a lot of people, when they write this down, they write down like a wish list. I wish I had a new car, a new girlfriend, you know, a dog that obeyed me. I'd like, you know, all the fundamentals in life, right? And so one of the things that we're looking for here is it comes from a deeper place. And let me talk about that deeper place. This morning I was reading about savants. You know savants, the one like Rain Man who have this incredible ability to give answers to questions that almost no one else can answer, and right off the top of their head and immediately. And they may have very poor skills in the rest of their life, but in this one particular area, they're incredible. And so there's a man in for instance, who has a 58-word vocabulary and yet can tell you what 2 to the 64th power is within seconds. And the number that 2 to the 64th power is bigger than all the atoms in the sun. Now, where does he get that? And where he gets it is from a deeper place than the surface mind, obviously, because the surface mind is generally not being that productive for him. But this part is really tapped into something. Now, Emerson wrote something, I read it in the first service, but I think I'll skip it now. I'll just tell you what he said. He said basically there is one mind. There's only one mind, and we draw from that mind, and if we were open to it, we could draw from any experience that has ever happened. So that was generally the same idea that Carl Jung came up with, called the collective consciousness, which is that there is essentially one source of thoughts that out of which arise our experience. This goes a little bit deeper when you think about the savants. They know things that were only happened like yesterday, like how far the cities are apart in any state, or various absurdly obscure ideas to most of us that don't seem to matter much, but to them they know that perfectly. All the modern thing. So essentially the study of savants and Carl Jung's ideas and Plato's ideas and Emerson's idea all agree with the same idea, that there is only one thought-producing idea mechanism of which we are outcroppings, right? That we are the out manifesting, and it comes up through us. Not just little automatons moving around in this world, but actually this is coming up through us. And you see this in the natural world. How many of you have seen one of those beautiful groves of aspens on the mountainsides in the west. These beautiful things that turn bright yellow, and and you'll see these blotches of yellow on these green mountains in the fall when they all turn yellow at the same time. The reason they turn yellow together and why they're clustered together is they have the same root system. They are not individual plants. They're one plant. They look like trees. They look like individual trees, but they're all connected. And I think that might be a fair metaphor for us. That we really feel very individual most of the time. But if we go deep enough into the source place of us, there's a common mind. And this common mind is deeper, wiser than the surface. And the surface can be befuddled by many things, and can be agitated and nervous and angry and sensitive, and it just can have lots of problems. And it can think its own thoughts, but it's also dropping these thoughts into the general pool of thoughts. And out of those pools come deep desires. And so these desires that we have come from a fundamental universal place. And I do think there's also this factor of it being filtered through our own experience. The desire comes up and it filters through us. So like in this culture, freedom often means an automobile. That's the way we find the expression of freedom. But in other cultures before and after the automobile, we'll probably think of something else. That's how freedom would be expressed through them. So now you can also see that the idea, the solution for these innate desires, and the word desire is D-E-S-I-R-E, right, of the Father. Essentially, these are God-given desires. Desires are not evil, but desires come up and they can be translated into something very unproductive in your life. I like to use this idea of the thief, who has the desire of knowing himself as one with God, or living in an abundant universe, of having everything they need naturally survive. The thief has this desire of that, but it is filtered through a belief system that says basically, I can't get it honestly, I don't earn it fast enough for what I want, I see it over there, I want it, I can take it and I can get it from someone else and I'll have it and it'll be mine, and I'll have the sense of prosperity that I want, this sense of power and ownership, or whatever it is that the thief is really working through. But the idea is that the desire of abundance and oneness, that has been contorted by the thought process of the individual, by the belief structure that's there, and it has tainted the God-given desire to know abundance and live in a happy and fulfilled world. But it gets filtered that way. So the surface mind might have a particular desired outcome that it wants, but it may not be all that productive. You may say, I really want to break into this house and be successful stealing. But that's not the most elegant solution to the desire of abundance. You with me? This sense of this God-given right desire to feel abundant, to feel connected, to be powerful, to have life in a joyous way. It can be twisted. And so if you want to unwind that, then you go to the desire in its original form rather than in its adjusted form. And if advertising is doing its job correctly, it's telling you how to adjust your innate desires into a product which we can sell to you. Right? So you've probably been infused with so many ideas, some of which really are not the most elegant solution to your desire. So we want to go to the desire. Your family might have given you solutions. Your friends might have given you solutions, but you want to go to a deeper level of the desire. So in setting your intent, you don't say, I think, this is my theory, And granted, this is just my theory. You don't say, I want this particular outcome. You go for the deeper place. Now, the deeper place may say, I want to be loved. I want to know love. I want to love, give love, express love. And you might say, I want Billy. But Billy isn't interested in you. Sorry. And so you cause a lot of tension between you and Billy. Right? So just let it be that love is what you want to experience. This is kind of the net of all I've said so far. It's just go down and find the fulfillment of the heart's felt desire in its simpler form rather than in its particularized form. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that to realize that if you can get down in this depths, into the whole of yourself, into the place where you're in the universal mind, where your being is connected like the aspens to all the other beings, when you're down in there and you place your desire on the altar of that experience, then you have connection with all it is that you do not get from the experience of an isolated single self. And so miraculous things can happen from this deeper level that it's not going to happen at the surface level. Now, if you're dealing with the desires at the surface level, then you better get to work. Because you got to do it. Right? Because that's the way it works up here. You go out, you make it happen. And you can find many motivational speakers that will tell you to make it happen. Right? And we're talking about a different thing. We're talking about being it. And from the state of being, letting it unfold in a more organic method. Right? So so what we're going to do is we're going to go find what the desire is. And then we're going to orchestrate this body-mind complex to feel it, to know it, to begin to resonate with it, so that it begins to signal out to all the other rhizomic parts of you, this is how I am. And you'll be declaring by vibration and the words you say and the actions you take, you'll be saying to the world, this is who I am. This is the outcome I have. So let's go back to the love. Rather than poking at Billy, you radiate love. You express this heartfelt nature of love. And you're receptive because you know it's going to work. You're not pushing away artificially opportunities that could be coming your way to experience love. You're receptive and you're radiant of love. And so that's how you walk in the world. And what does the world say back to you? God, you look good, Where have you been all my life? How come you and I haven't met before? Where were you? Right? Do I know you? Right? Because now that's who you are. Or if it's wealth you're after, you don't walk around going, I can't buy a newspaper. I'm too poor to do anything. You don't walk around with that attitude. You walk around in such a way that people go, I don't know what that guy does, but he must be doing it right because everything's working for him. You can see just by the way he moves. Well, let's see if I can help him out. Right? Do you know what I mean? Think the world will agree with you. And maybe not at first, 100% every day. Maybe all the people who are so familiar with you, they can't see past your change. They don't do that. But in general, the world will agree with you. The trick is to be where you want to go before you get there. Granted, it's probably not without effort and not without adjusting your thoughts and not without being willing to be different. Yes, you'll have to do all those things, but it's probably more fun than doing all the heavy work of tracking someone down and forcing them to give it to you, right? Right? A little easier to be it rather than to always be the doobie. Be a BB, right? Okay, you with me on that? So the way to get to that is the same way you get to figuring out what it is you really want, is you move down into the whole of who you are and not stay just on the surface. And of course we rise and fall all the time between these two points on the continuum of consciousness, but we are wanting to, in this practice, to come down and to be at that level. And so you find your desire, and then you, as best you can imagine it, you feel it, you become it. And when you do this thoroughly enough, the body becomes the memory mechanism for this experience. The body, your body, stores your experiences now. So now you just feed it something you want it to store. It stores it as a feeling state, as a general way of holding your posture, as automatic responses to things. It stores it. And then your mind, in the emotional part, in this more subconscious aspect of you, it stores it. And so those two storehouses of you remember this event that you're making up in your meditation. It remembers it, and it begins to program you to act in that way. And the world says, oh, he acts in that way, therefore he shall receive in that way. It gives it back to you, right? So rather than having a kick me sign on the back of you, you have a kiss me sign on the back of you, right? Because you've imagined you were loved, and loved. And you bring it to a heightened experience, and you do this enough that it becomes your state, and you be it. And you don't mess it up with going, yeah, but I don't know about that. Right? How many of us have read every positive thinking book there is and go, yeah, but. Right? I remember I got a book a long time ago called The Last Self-Help Book You'll Need. Maybe 200 books ago, right? We do this. We read it, but we discard it too quickly. And in this way of intending something, do not discard it. Don't discard your desire, but let it grow in you and experience it, right? Do that. Let it be so. Believe it. Now, this is a decision. You can choose to believe. Like Alice in Wonderland found out, I believed 1,000, or how many, I can't remember. I believe 1,000 impossible things before breakfast, right? Choose. Choose to not be dictated by the past. Choose to believe in the future. Their past will tell you plenty of information, is full of enough information that you are not going to be different than you were, if that's all you can remember. You must remember something that hasn't happened yet. Remember, become a member again of that which has not happened yet. By experiencing it through imagination and the will to be that, and the intent to be that. Remember it that way. So you bring it into your body by imagining it and feeling it and playing with it in all the five senses, in the words you say to yourself, in the trusting of divinity to bring it to you, and then letting it happen and not fighting it when it happens. So you let yourself feel it and subconsciously know it. You let yourself believe it. You let yourself be it. And you don't fight it with past memories and your unwillingness to believe. You discard those enough to let it unfold. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the practice. Come into a deeper place to know what you really want, not just what's on the surface. Then see and feel the outcome and live from that outcome. And you can write yourself a letter at the same time. So now the letter, we gave out the letter this year actually almost a month and a half later than we usually do. And so we just recently got feedback on a couple of people. And so one of the persons that I talked to about this said that she got some bad news, some painful news, really painful news, just the day she got her letter. And something she had written in her letter was the most consoling thing she could have heard. And so what could have been devastating was just difficult. It did not take her down completely, but she had laced it in with wisdom months before. That was one report. So that's one of the ways, I think, when you tap into a deeper level, you're in the level of miracle and magic. And so you want to do your letter from there. And another person wrote this, I didn't get anything I said I wanted in there. Now I've had that experience myself, but I do think this technique that we're talking about of going deeper and then imagining it and staying with it long enough to make that a felt experience in your body and registered deeply in your subconscious will make that unlikely. Now, I can't guarantee it, but I think that's the way it works. And that if you just wrote it down, I want a car, a dog, and a new bicycle, it may not happen, right? It may not happen, because it's not really that important to you. It really wasn't. Or it might be important to you, but you haven't moved to the state of being where you want to go before it happens. You just put it down and hope for the best. But we're doing a little more than that this year. We're going for the whole banana by committing ourselves to pre-experiencing what we want. If you tend to write it down and forget it, then you might want to tear off a piece of the paper and write a note to yourself, here's what I want, and then practice sometime other than in the next 10 minutes over the course of the year. That might be helpful, okay? We would like you to be successful. Now, one of the things we're going to do next month, in the month of February, is we're going to have a book study. We have a book study every month, and in that time of the book study, we're going to do this book called The Power of Eight. This is a book by Lynn McTaggart, who wrote The Intention Experiment. I think is that the other one, this one, The Power of Attention or something like that. Her writings are about small groups of people. Usually, that's why it's called The Power of Eight. Some multiple of 8, maybe 3, maybe 15 people, somewhere, not a huge number, but sometimes working with huge numbers. People praying for a specific thing for a person, and having a result. Sometimes they're working with nature, having a plant grow fast, or the water change pH, or that sort of thing. But they're measuring these results. And what we're going to do in the next month is that we're going to invite people to form these small groups, if you're not already in one, to join one, and to intend an outcome through prayer, or which is just really a religious way of saying intending, a prayer group focused on one thing at a time. So let's say a person comes in with a particular problem, all 8 of you will pray for that one outcome. And then we want to quantify it and see how well it did. So it's sort of like this. You'll have a quantification in about 8 months of how you did with your intention, but we could also do it with small groups. And as Anna has so bravely said, this is the year of audacity. So this is our chance to be audaciously good at it, or to see where we're not, one or the other. Okay. So, let's practice the meditative aspect of it, and then you can write. We'll also take up an offering as you're writing, so maybe you can do 2 things at once. But let's start with the meditation. All right. So I can see a little fidgeting right now. We'll wait for a minute, let everybody have a chance to adjust the logistics of this. Now, many of you know already what your heart's desire is. But we're going to go down and into this depth of who we are anyway. So start by relaxing the body and finding a way to sit that allows you to be alert and yet relaxed. And to deepen into that experience, let's start with the breath and let the breath be for a few moments in accordance with your body's needs, deeper and slower. Feel the body sitting on the chair. Feel the floor, the air about you, the sensations of the breath. Become attuned and deep within this physical being that you're sharing with all it is. Now pass through an invisible membrane and move into another dimension where you can go deeper quickly. Feel it pass through your forehead and out the back of your head as you step through the membrane, and now you are in a deeper place. And in this deeper place, let yourself drop into a quieter, more powerful, more connected space. As you do so, please open your hearts and find the breath coming into and out of the heart. And let that love that is in the heart now just radiate to all of your being and beyond you and to this room and anywhere it wants to go. Connecting with all that is through your heart and through your intention now. You might ask this question: what is my intent for this year? Or for life in general, or whatever it is you wish. But ask so that it might bubble up into your awareness. Perhaps it comes as a feeling, but see if you can distinguish it. And as that becomes clear, then to begin to imagine, sense, and feel it as being already here. So, you see yourself as that. And you bring your senses into it. So if seeing doesn't work for you, then maybe you're feeling what it's like. Maybe you're focused now on the words that express that. Starting with the phrase, I am. Or maybe you can hear it, or taste it, or smell it, or maybe all of them. All right. Now amplify it. Bring it into the brightest state you can. Brighter than any past that you have a memory of. And now connect with your divine, however you do it. Connect with the one power, the one presence. And place this desire into that field, into that presence. And perhaps you may say words of may I or please do, but also say thank you. Because you're already experiencing it. Now bring faith. Believe and choose to believe. Say a deep and heartfelt yes. And then be it. Just be it for a few moments. And love it. And love it. And love it. And so it is.